All right, so today I'm breaking down all the upcoming open world games you actually need to know about. The huge ones, the weird ones, the how is this even running ones, and the games that will absolutely steal 200 hours of your life without apologizing. No filler, no corporate hype, just the good stuff you should be excited for. So, let's get into it. Forest 3 is the newly announced survival horror sequel from Endnight Games, revealed at the Game Awards 2025, and it's already stirring excitement for its radical shift into sci-fi territory. Unlike its predecessors, which trapped players in dense forests with primitive tools, Forest 3 introduces futuristic technology, spaceship wreckage, holographic interfaces, and advanced machinery layered over the franchise's signature tension and dread. Personally, I think the funniest part is imagining longtime fans who once struggled to build crooked log cabins, now fumbling with holographic chessboards and blast doors, proving that no matter the tech level, survival gamers will always find a way to accidentally set themselves on fire. The game promises to retain the brutal survival mechanics, cooperative play, and horror atmosphere that made the Forest and Sons of the Forest cult hits, while expanding into new narrative and gameplay possibilities with sci-fi aesthetics. Forest 3 feels like both a continuation and reinvention, aiming to surprise players with unfamiliar settings while keeping the raw unpredictability of survival intact. Forest 3 preparing to stalk players sometime in late 2026 on PC and Xbox Series X and S, when Endnight Games finally unleashes its futuristic nightmare into the wild. Project Retrograde: The Becoming is a newly announced narrative-driven action survival game from Inversity Gameworks, blending apocalyptic storytelling with martial arts-inspired combat. Set in a world devastated by the ancient parasite LUCA, players step into the role of a bounty hunter symbiotically bound to the parasite, gaining dangerous powers that allow them to absorb combat memories from fallen hosts. The game emphasizes exploration of ancient ruins, scavenging for survival, and mastering its Gung Fu-centric combat system, which promises fluid, cinematic battles that feel more like choreographed duels than button-mashing brawls. I think this is one of the most daring indie projects in years because it risks merging deep narrative with experimental combat mechanics. I can't wait to see players, supposedly hardened bounty hunters, trip over collapsing ruins mid-spin kick, proving that apocalypse heroes are just clumsy martial artists with better lighting. Project Retrograde: The Becoming preparing to launch soon on PlayStation 5, Xbox Series X and S, and PC via Steam, though its exact release date remains shrouded in mystery, like the parasite lurking beneath humanity's last hope.
All our sacrifices! All ruin!
Neverness to Everness is a supernatural, urban, open-world RPG from Hada Studio, the creators of Tower of Fantasy, published by Perfect World Games, and it's already being hailed as one of the most ambitious anime-inspired projects of 2026. Set in a dazzling, anomaly-filled city, players take on the role of espers with extraordinary powers, navigating a vibrant metropolis where lifestyle choices matter as much as combat, whether you're running businesses, customizing your character, or diving into chaotic battles against supernatural threats. The game leverages Unreal Engine 5 with advanced path tracing features, promising jaw-dropping visuals that blur the line between anime and photorealism, while offering sandbox freedom that mixes Persona-like social systems with GTA-style urban chaos. I think this is one of the most exciting RPGs in years because it dares to merge everyday life with supernatural spectacle. I can't wait to see players pause mid-battle against a giant demon just to manage their coffee shop's rent, because nothing says urban fantasy hero like losing to monsters because you forgot to pay bills. Neverness to Everness launching in early 2026 on PC, PlayStation 5, PlayStation 4, and mobile platforms, inviting players worldwide to step into a city where the ordinary collides spectacularly with the extraordinary.
Don't forget the rush fee.
Thanks!
Meddle all you want. Count me out.
How about we work off some calories?
Horizon Steel Frontiers is the newly announced MMORPG set in the Horizon universe, developed by NC Soft in collaboration with Guerrilla Games, revealed at G-Star 2025. The game shifts the franchise from Aloy's single-player adventures into a massive multiplayer frontier called the Deadlands, inspired by Arizona and New Mexico, where thousands of players will hunt colossal machines, clash in PvP resource wars, and build their own destinies as custom machine hunters. It promises Horizon's signature hunting action, advanced combat systems, and large-scale raids, all powered by NC Soft's Purple cross-platform service for PC and mobile. I think this is a bold but exciting move. Expanding Horizon into MMO territory could either redefine the franchise or overwhelm players with too much chaos. I can't wait to see guild leaders giving serious speeches about machine hunting strategy while half their team is busy dangling from cliffs with the pullcaster like malfunctioning Spider-Man. Horizon Steel Frontiers preparing to launch in late 2026 on PC and mobile via NC Soft's Purple platform, opening the gates of the Deadlands to hunters worldwide. The Blood of Dawnwalker is Rebel Wolves' highly anticipated dark fantasy RPG, published by Bandai Namco Entertainment, and it's already being hailed as one of the most ambitious vampire-themed games of 2026. Set in Vale Sangora, a mysterious region of the Carpathian Mountains, the story follows Cohen, a Dawnwalker cursed to live as a human by day and a vampire by night, navigating a narrative sandbox where player choices shape the fate of villages, clans, and the balance between humanity and vampirism. The game promises cinematic storytelling, open-world exploration, and morally complex decisions, with combat designed to feel visceral and strategic, blending RPG progression with gothic atmosphere. Players will encounter new characters, hidden histories, and supernatural threats tied to the valley's dark past, while the duality of Cohen's existence creates tension between survival and power. Personally, I think this is one of the most exciting RPGs in years, because it dares to merge vampire mythology with sandbox freedom. I can't wait to see players, supposedly cursed warriors, spend half their time worrying about daylight schedules like supernatural alarm clocks. The Blood of Dawnwalker launching in 2026 on PC, PlayStation 5, and Xbox Series X and S, inviting adventurers worldwide to step into Vale Sangora's shadowed destiny.
Trapped between the two worlds, fighting to even the score, fighting to understand the evil behind it all.
He is out there, watching, seeping into you, growing.
Beast of Reincarnation is the upcoming action role-playing game from Game Freak, marking their first major AAA project outside of the Pokémon franchise, and it's already turning heads for its ambitious scope and hauntingly beautiful premise. Set in a post-apocalyptic Japan in the year 4026, the story follows Emma the Sealer and her loyal dog Ku as they traverse corrupted lands teeming with monstrous beasts, blending cinematic storytelling with fast-paced combat in what the developers describe as a one-person, one-dog adventure. Personally, I think the funniest part is imagining Pokémon veterans trying to throw Pokeballs at these terrifying creatures. only to realize this time you're not catching them, you're running for your life while your dog looks at you like, "Really? This was your plan?" The game's tone is darker and more mature than anything Game Freak has attempted before, but it still carries their signature flair for creature design and emotional bonds, making it feel like a spiritual cousin to their past work. With Unreal Engine 5 powering the visuals, Beast of Reincarnation aims to deliver sprawling forests, eerie wastelands, and dynamic battles that feel both cinematic and unpredictable. Beast of Reincarnation set to release in 2026 on PlayStation 5, Xbox Series X and S, and PC via Steam and Microsoft Store, also available day one on Game Pass, inviting players worldwide to step into Emma's cursed destiny alongside her faithful companion.
風次後エマ、お前こそが輪廻の獣を滅ぼす刃となる。
Fable is the long-awaited reboot of the beloved fantasy RPG series developed by Playground Games and published by Xbox Game Studios, promising a return to Albion with modern visuals powered by the Forza Tech engine. The game is positioned as a fresh start rather than a direct sequel, blending the franchise's trademark British humor, moral choices, and whimsical fantasy with contemporary action RPG mechanics. Personally, I think the funniest part is imagining players once again trying to be noble heroes, only to accidentally kick chickens across villages, a tradition that has somehow become the unofficial sport of Albion. What excites me most is the balance between cinematic storytelling and player freedom, with developers teasing a world that reacts dynamically to choices, ensuring every playthrough feels unique. The reboot also aims to capture the charm of Lionhead's originals while avoiding the pitfalls of over-promising, focusing instead on grounded, character-driven adventures.
You know what it's like when you're young and you have a point to prove? I tell you, this kid, she had it all. The skill, the talent, the power. She was something else, all right. She was terrifying. So, yeah, I knew this girl once who made all the wrong choices.
Humphrey. She's back.
I'm going to fix it, this place. And no one is going to stand in my way.
Forza Horizon 6 is the next big entry in Playground Games' open-world racing franchise, taking the series to Japan for the very first time, with Tokyo and Mount Fuji serving as iconic backdrops for high-speed chaos. Built on the Forza Tech engine, the game promises cutting-edge visuals, dynamic weather, and a deeper sense of culture woven into its car festivals, blending traditional Japanese aesthetics with neon-soaked street racing. Personally, I think the funniest part will be watching players try to drift elegantly through Shibuya Crossing, only to end up mowing down ramen stands and NPC pedestrians who probably just wanted a quiet night out. The game is expected to expand customization, introduce new multiplayer modes, and refine the festival system to feel more like a living city than a temporary event. Fans are buzzing about the possibility of more authentic JDM car culture, with classics like the Nissan Skyline and Toyota Supra likely to headline the roster. Forza Horizon 6 feels like both a love letter to Japan's legendary racing scene and a technical showcase of what next-gen consoles can deliver. Forza Horizon 6 racing onto Xbox Series X and S and PC in 2026, with PlayStation 5 joining later, inviting drivers worldwide to burn rubber under the neon lights of Tokyo. Ion 2 is the highly anticipated sequel to NCSoft's legendary MMORPG, promising a bold reimagining of the world of Atria with a shiny new engine, revamped combat systems, and a global audience in mind. Unlike its predecessor, which leaned heavily on grind-heavy progression, Aeon 2 is shaping up to be more dynamic, with fluid aerial combat, expansive exploration, and a narrative that feels less like homework and more like an epic fantasy binge. I think the funniest part is that NCSoft seems determined to make flying combat the centerpiece again, because nothing says MMO chaos like 30 players awkwardly flapping around in the sky, trying to look majestic while accidentally dive-bombing into walls. The game's ambition is clear. It wants to recapture the magic of the original while fixing its notorious flaws, and if they succeed, it could be one of the most refreshing MMORPG experiences in years. Fans are already buzzing about the staggered release plan, with Korea and Taiwan getting first dibs in November 2025, while the rest of the world waits until 2026. Aeon 2 will spread its wings across PC and mobile platforms, soaring into Korean skies, first before gliding gracefully into the global stage.
아트레이아의 하늘이 다시 열린다. 이제 당신이 날아오를 시간. 아이온 2 그랜드 오픈.
Archie-Age Chronicles is the next ambitious chapter in the Archie-Age saga, developed by XL Games and published by Kakao Games, and it's being pitched as a full-blown online action RPG rather than a traditional MMORPG, blending the expansive sandbox freedom of the original with fast-paced combat and cinematic storytelling. Built on Unreal Engine 5, the game promises breathtaking visuals, large-scale raids, deep home customization, and endless exploration across a massive open world that feels alive and reactive. Personally, I think the funniest part is how Archie-Age has always been notorious for players building houses in the most inconvenient spots possible, so expect someone to plop a mansion right in the middle of your raid path again, because chaos is part of the charm. What excites me most is the shift toward action-heavy mechanics, which could finally make combat feel less like spreadsheet math and more like a proper fantasy brawl. Archie-Age Chronicles is clearly designed to evolve the franchise into something more accessible and cinematic, while still keeping the quirky player-driven economy and freedom that made the original infamous. Archie-Age Chronicles setting sail in Q3 2026 on PlayStation 5, Xbox Series X and S, and PC via Steam and Epic Games Store, inviting adventurers worldwide to carve their destinies in a new era of chaos and glory.
Perhaps you might become one of us.
Ark 2 is the long-awaited sequel to Studio Wildcard's dinosaur survival phenomenon, first revealed back in 2020, and it's shaping up to be a wild mix of prehistoric chaos, cinematic storytelling, and Souls-like combat mechanics. Built on Unreal Engine 5, the game promises a deeper narrative starring Vin Diesel as Santiago, enhanced survival systems, and more realistic dinosaurs that make the original look like cardboard cutouts in comparison. Personally, I think the funniest part is imagining Vin Diesel delivering his trademark family speeches while riding a T-Rex, because nothing screams fast and furious quite like drifting through a jungle on a dinosaur. Ark 2 is aiming to refine everything players loved and hated about the first game: brutal crafting, unpredictable multiplayer antics, and the eternal struggle of trying to build a base only to have it flattened by a rampaging Brontosaurus 5 minutes later. The developers have teased mod support, large-scale battles, and a more cinematic approach to survival, but delays have left fans waiting far longer than expected. Ark 2 is still without a firm release date, but destined to arrive as an Xbox Series X and S console exclusive and Day 1 Game Pass title alongside PC, when Studio Wildcard finally decides the dinosaurs are ready to stomp into the spotlight. Phantom Blade Zero is the upcoming dark martial arts action RPG from S-Game, blending hyperfast hack-and-slash combat with a bleak cinematic world inspired by Chinese wuxia and modern Souls-like design. The story follows Soul, an elite assassin cursed with only 66 days to live, forcing players into a desperate journey through treacherous lands filled with masked men, monstrous foes, and surreal encounters that feel equal parts Sekiro and Nioh. Combat is designed to mimic martial arts choreography, with fluid combos and cinematic duels, while the art direction leans into gothic atmospheres that make every battle feel like a scene from a martial arts epic. I think this is one of the most stylish action RPGs in years, because it dares to merge wuxia storytelling with punishing Souls-like mechanics. I can't wait to see players, supposedly hardened assassins, carry a baby through brutal battles like it's Death Stranding 2, Kung Fu Edition. Phantom Blade Zero officially launching on September 9th, 2026 for PlayStation 5 and PC via Steam, inviting players worldwide to test their martial skill before the sands of time run out. Divinity is Larian Studios' newly announced RPG, revealed at the Game Awards 2025, marking a return to the studio's original fantasy universe after the massive success of Baldur's Gate 3. Built as a spiritual successor to Divinity Original Sin 2, the game promises continuity with familiar characters, while introducing a completely new storyline, darker themes, and a more ambitious scope. Confirmed to retain turn-based combat, it expands progression systems, moral choices, and cinematic storytelling, blending everything Larian learned from its previous projects into what it calls its most ambitious RPG yet. Fans can expect haunting environments, complex party dynamics, and a narrative that rewards exploration and sharp decision-making. And yes, it's still turn-based, because nothing says epic fantasy like waiting politely for your enemy to finish their move before you stab them. With no release date yet, Divinity is shaping up to be a cornerstone in modern RPG design, promising depth, drama, and devilish fun. I Hate This Place is an upcoming open-world survival horror game developed by Broken Mirror Games under Bloober Team's new publishing label and published by Skybound Games, set to release on January 29, 2026 for PC, Steam, Epic, PlayStation 5, Xbox Series X and S, and Nintendo Switch. Based on the acclaimed comic series by Kyle Starks and Artyom Topolin, the game thrusts players into a brutal, supernatural wilderness where grotesque creatures, occult forces, and psychological terror collide. Players must scavenge resources, craft tools, and fight to survive while unraveling the mysteries tied to the land's cursed history. The narrative-driven design emphasizes exploration, moral choices, and dynamic encounters, blending cosmic horror with survival mechanics. With its eerie atmosphere, gruesome visuals, and faithful adaptation of the comic's themes of paranoia and dread, I Hate This Place promises to deliver a uniquely unsettling experience that challenges both strategy and nerve, positioning itself as one of 2026's most intriguing horror releases.
If you die in there, perhaps we'll meet again, under different circumstances.
Light No Fire is one of those games that makes you go, bro, this might actually change how we think about open worlds. Coming from Hello Games, the studio behind No Man's Sky, it's set on a fantasy planet literally the size of Earth, meaning you can climb mountains, cross oceans, and explore entire continents without hitting invisible walls. The vibe is survival meets RPG, so you're not just wandering, you're building, crafting, fighting enemies, and shaping your own story in a living, procedurally generated world. The devs are promising co-op play too, so you can team up with friends to tackle biomes, uncover secrets, and survive together. What's wild is the scale. It's not just big map hype, it's a planet-sized sandbox where every adventure feels unique. Honestly, it looks like one of those games where you'll be muttering, bro, I just climbed Everest and fought a dragon at the top, while still grinning because the freedom is so ridiculous. Longevity Yin and Yang is one of those upcoming action RPGs that makes you go, hey bro, this is basically Black Myth, Wukong meets Sekiro, but with its own crazy twist. Developed by Chinese indie studio 11 Games in Unreal Engine 5, it's set in the Ming Dynasty and dives deep into ancient ruins, imperial secrets, and the mythic obsession with eternal life. The combat is pure Wuxia Souls-like, fast, punishing, and cinematic, so every duel feels like a high-stakes martial arts showdown. The devs are promising around 40 to 50 hours of single-player content, multiple difficulty modes, and accessibility options, which means it's not just hardcore but also flexible for different players. The vibe is drenched in Chinese mythology, with comparisons already being made to Black Myth, Wukong, and Zhongkui, so expect a mix of folklore, supernatural enemies, and jaw-dropping visuals. Honestly, it looks like one of those games where you'll be muttering, bro, this boss fight is insane, while still grinning because the atmosphere and combat are just too good to put down. Gang of Dragon is Nagoshi Studios' gritty new action-adventure unveiled at the Game Awards 2025, set in Tokyo's Kabukicho nightlife district where neon lights mask the shadows of crime. Directed by Toshihiro Nagoshi, the legendary creator of Yakuza, the game stars Ma Dong-seok as Shinji Seong, a high-ranking member of a Korean syndicate navigating brutal underworld conflicts and fragile human bonds. Combat unfolds in visceral third-person style, mixing devastating hand-to-hand strikes with blades, firearms, and even high-octane vehicle chases through Shinjuku's crowded streets. The narrative promises a blend of violence and humanity, exploring loyalty, betrayal, and redemption in a city that never sleeps. And yes, when fists fly faster than bullets, you'll realize the true moral of the story: never skip arm day. With cinematic flair and a focus on raw physicality, Gang of Dragon is shaping up to be a spiritual successor to Nagoshi's Yakuza legacy, but with its own ferocious identity. The Godslayer is Pythia Games' ambitious open-world RPG, revealed in late 2025 after years of silence, and it thrusts players into a sprawling steampunk city inspired by Eastern culture where divine beings known as Celestials rule with iron fists. You play as Chung, an Elemancer gifted with elemental powers reminiscent of Avatar, the last airbender who rises against the gods themselves in a tale of rebellion, vengeance, and destiny. Combat blends martial arts fluidity with elemental mastery, letting players unleash fire, water, earth, and air in dazzling combinations while exploring a handcrafted metropolis filled with secrets, factions, and colossal bosses. The narrative promises a mix of mythic grandeur and personal struggle, as Chung's defiance sparks a war against celestial tyranny. And yes, slaying gods sounds epic, but try explaining to your neighbors why your apartment smells like burnt lightning after a boss fight. With its fusion of steampunk aesthetics, mythological storytelling, and dynamic combat, the Godslayer is shaping up to be one of the most striking RPGs of its generation.
Have a taste of my ass!
The Path into the Abyss is an upcoming hardcore first-person open-world survival shooter from MXR Productions, set against the haunting backdrop of a devastated Buenos Aires where cosmic horror bleeds into urban decay. Players are thrust into a sprawling sandbox filled with dynamic AI, factional conflict, and psychological dread, where survival depends on scavenging, crafting, and navigating shifting allegiances. The game's systems-driven design emphasizes emergent storytelling. Factions like the Oriundos and Yakureis pursue their own goals, NPCs can be befriended or antagonized, and companions can be recruited to form a crew, all within a persistent world shaped by player choices. Combat is tense and unforgiving, blending realistic gunplay with inventory management and weapon modding, while exploration reveals eerie landmarks and hidden lore that deepen the sense of cosmic unease. A pre-alpha demo already showcases features such as the Abyss Life AI system, free play mode, and the chapter Carway's Journey, hinting at the scale of the final release. With its mix of Lovecraftian atmosphere, survival mechanics, and cinematic presentation, The Path into the Abyss positions itself as one of the most ambitious indie horror shooters on the horizon. Scheduled for release at a yet unconfirmed date, The Path into the Abyss will launch on PC via Steam. The Relic: First Guardian is an upcoming dark fantasy action RPG developed by South Korean studio Project Cloud Games and published by Perp Games, inviting players into the apocalyptic land of Arsiltis, a once prosperous realm now consumed by a terrifying void after the destruction of a great relic. Players take on the role of a guardian tasked with gathering the shattered fragments of this relic to seal away the darkness forever, embarking on a journey that blends folklore-inspired storytelling with untraditional heroism. The game promises a semi-open world filled with haunting landscapes, raised villages, and environments steeped in Asian folklore, where every step uncovers fragments of forgotten tales passed down through generations. Combat is expected to be cinematic and challenging, combining melee mastery with mystical powers, while exploration emphasizes mystery, danger, and the emotional weight of restoring hope to a dying world. With its narrative focus on love, tragedy, and resilience, The Relic: First Guardian positions itself as a deeply atmospheric experience that merges mythic storytelling with modern action RPG mechanics. Scheduled for release on May 26, 2026, The Relic: First Guardian will launch on PC via Steam, PlayStation 5, and Xbox Series X and S.
Remembers the love of a family.
The Vernihorn is an upcoming cinematic open-world RPG from Polish developer Interstudio, designed as a dark, atmospheric journey inspired by Slavic myths and medieval life. The game emphasizes realism and immersion, with environments built from real location scans of Poland, enriched by traditional craftsmanship and reenactor expertise to ensure authenticity. Its narrative follows a man haunted by his past, confronting inner demons while navigating a handcrafted world where every village, cave, and forest glade is purpose-built to reward curiosity rather than sprawling emptiness. Combat is a centerpiece, developed in collaboration with world champion swordmaster Antoni Olbrychski, using motion capture to deliver fluid, lifelike swordplay that balances brutality with precision. The developers highlight a mature, personal story that intertwines folklore with psychological depth, aiming to create a world that feels lived in and narratively rich. Crowdfunding campaigns are underway to support development, with milestones including an early test build in mid-2026 and a playable demo later that year, giving supporters a chance to shape the project. Scheduled for release after these milestones, the Vernihorn will launch on PC and consoles, with exact dates to be confirmed. No Law is Neon Giant's ambitious follow-up to The Ascent, a single-player open-world FPS RPG unveiled at the Game Awards 2025, where players step into the boots of Gray Harker, an ex-military veteran whose quiet life tending plants is shattered when gangs and corrupt powers of Port Desire come crashing in. Built on handcrafted cyber-noir environments, the game emphasizes player choice, whether you go loud with brutal gunfights or stealthy through reactive systems that respond to sightlines, noise, and pressure. The narrative promises a gritty tale of survival, revenge, and fractured morality, with Harker forced to confront both his past and the city that wronged him. Combat is visceral, blending custom hardware, tactical gunplay, and RPG progression, while the world pulses with gang wars and neon-lit decadence. And yes, Gray may be a hardened soldier, but even he knows the deadliest weapon in Port Desire is still rent prices. With no release date yet, No Law is shaping up to be a brutal, stylish expansion of Neon Giant's cyberpunk vision. Project Tal is South Korea's bold new challenger in the RPG arena, an open-world action-adventure steeped in Korean mythology and scheduled for release in 2027 across PC and consoles. Developed by a new studio, it promises cinematic storytelling, photorealistic visuals, and fast-paced combat that blends martial arts precision with flashy weapon combos, drawing comparisons to Black Myth, Wukong, and Stellar Blade. Players will journey through vibrant realms, fight colossal creatures, and recruit allies whose personalities and abilities shape the unfolding narrative. The game emphasizes exploration and immersion, with dynamic environments and fluid character animations powered by Unreal Engine 5. And yes, battling mythic beasts is terrifying, but at least you don't have to explain to your insurance company why your sword broke fighting a dragon. With its ambitious scope and cultural depth, Project Tal is positioning itself as one of the most anticipated RPGs of 2027, aiming to redefine how myth and modern design collide. Samson A Tindleston's story is basically a pressure cooker disguised as a video game. You're stepping into the shoes of Samson McRae, a guy drowning in debt while the city of Tindleston itself feels like it's actively trying to crush him. Every move you make matters. Mess up and the city pushes back harder. The devs at Liquid Swords, led by Christopher Sundberg, yeah, the dude behind Just Cause and Mad Max, are promising brutal, grounded combat where desperation fuels every punch, kick, and split-second decision. It's not just about fighting, it's about surviving in a noir-inspired nightmare where the clock is always ticking and choices stick with you. The game's dropping on Steam and Epic in early 2026, rocking cinematic storytelling and next-gen visuals that make the grime and neon of Tindleston pop off the screen. Honestly, it looks like one of those titles that'll have us sweating bullets while yelling at the monitor, and I'm kinda here for it.
You can fight the fuck back.
Star Wars: Fate of the Old Republic is Argonaut Studios' bold new RPG, unveiled at the Game Awards 2025, and it promises to transport players back to the twilight of the Old Republic in a galaxy teetering on rebirth. Directed by Casey Hudson, the veteran behind Mass Effect, the game is designed as a narrative-driven, single-player epic that builds on the legacy of Knights of the Old Republic while forging its own path. Players will step into the role of a Force user navigating political intrigue, ancient mysteries, and the moral dilemmas of light versus dark, all within a cinematic framework powered by modern storytelling techniques. While details remain scarce, the announcement trailer teased sweeping galactic vistas and a tone of mythic grandeur. And yes, fans are already joking that the game might take so long to release that the Sith will file a formal complaint with HR. With Lucasfilm Games' backing and Hudson's vision, Fate of the Old Republic is shaping up to be one of the most anticipated Star Wars RPGs of the decade, even if patience will be tested before its eventual launch. Supreme Experiment is one of those games that instantly makes you lean forward and go, okay, what the heck is happening here? So here's the deal. It's a first-person sci-fi action-adventure from Argonaut Games, set in a world where humanity has basically peaced out, and machines have evolved into their own species, complete with tribes, cults, and even gods. You're dropped into this eerie, post-human Earth where survival isn't just about blasting robots. It's about unraveling the mystery of how we fell and whether there's anything left worth saving. The devs are promising immersive sim mechanics, atmospheric exploration, and multiple endings, so every choice you make could flip the story on its head. Think cyberpunk vibes mashed with supernatural lore, wrapped in a thriller-style narrative that keeps you guessing. Honestly, it feels like one of those games where you'll be wandering through neon ruins, fighting off machine zealots, and constantly muttering, "Bro, what is even going on?" And that's exactly why I'm hyped.
Searching for truth. An abandoned, poisoned wasteland, crawling with creatures beyond imagination. Down here, humans don't belong. For those who left the city, it's a one-way ticket. Go for a reason. This evolution of the machines was not random. There's something vast behind it. And it's coming for everyone, not just the machines. The people in the cities don't know it yet. But soon they will.
Under a Rock is an ambitious survival crafting adventure developed by Nordic Trolls and published by Gameforge, designed to immerse players in a vibrant, procedurally generated world that feels both alien and familiar. Set in a primitive yet perilous realm shaped by an alternate evolutionary path, the game casts players as early 19th century explorers who stumble into a mysterious land where oversized wildlife roams freely, Neanderthals still thrive, and curses wield tangible power. Built for solo play or cooperative sessions with up to 10 players, its mechanics emphasize base building, resource gathering, creature taming, and dynamic exploration across vast landscapes that shift with each new world seed. The art style is colorful and stylized, reminiscent of Fortnite's playful visuals, yet layered with survival tension and emergent storytelling. Combat integrates both ranged and melee systems, while crafting allows for deep customization of tools, weapons, and shelters. The developers highlight the unpredictability of each run, ensuring replayability through evolving ecosystems and procedurally generated challenges. Positioned as a blend of survival intensity and creative freedom, Under a Rock aims to stand out in the crowded genre by offering a unique mix of exploration, danger, and cooperative fun. Scheduled for release in 2026, Under a Rock will launch on PC, PlayStation 5, and Xbox Series X and S. Control Resonant is Remedy Entertainment's bold sequel to their 2019 hit, shifting the spotlight from Jesse Faden to her troubled younger brother Dylan, 7 years after the events of the first game. Set in a paranormally warped Manhattan rather than the oldest house, the story unfolds as the Hiss escapes containment, twisting skyscrapers and streets into surreal battlegrounds. Dylan, armed with new abilities and a shape-shifting melee weapon called the Aberrant, must confront cosmic threats while searching for his sister, who may have gone rogue. Unlike its predecessor's shooter focus, Resonant leans into action RPG systems, offering open-ended exploration, moral choices, and deeper progression. Remedy promises a cinematic expansion of its connected universe, co-produced with Annapurna Pictures, aiming for release in 2026 across PC, PS5, Xbox Series X and S, and Mac. And yes, Manhattan may be collapsing under supernatural forces, but at least the rent finally matches the vibe. 007 First Light is IO Interactive's bold reimagining of James Bond's origin, casting players as a young, rebellious Royal Navy airman recruited into MI6, where the journey to earn his license to kill unfolds across globe-trotting missions, cinematic espionage, and gadget-fueled chaos. Built on the Glacier engine, the game promises breathtaking stealth and explosive action, weaving a standalone story inspired by Ian Fleming's novels while embracing modern blockbuster flair. Scheduled for release on May 27, 2026 across PlayStation 5, Xbox Series X and S, Nintendo Switch 2, and PC, it's touted as IO's most ambitious project yet, blending spycraft, car chases, and moral dilemmas into a seamless narrative. Midway through development, the studio delayed launch by 2 months to polish the experience, because even Bond needs time to iron his tux. And let's be honest, if you fail a mission, don't worry, Bond always has a license to respawn.
Tell me, what do you do, James?
Lately, headhunting.
Atomic Heart 2 is Mundfish's ambitious sequel to their surreal Soviet dystopia, announced at Summer Game Fest 2025 and set for release in 2026 on PC, PlayStation 5, and Xbox Series X and S. Continuing Major P3's journey, the game expands beyond Facility 3826 into a global stage where retro-futuristic aesthetics collide with collapsing societies and rogue robotics. Players can expect deeper RPG systems, skill upgrades, and expanded weapon customization, all wrapped in the studio's signature blend of eerie atmosphere and explosive combat. The narrative promises a broader exploration of alternate history, with humanity's survival hanging in the balance as mechanical nightmares spread worldwide. And yes, the robots are still terrifying, though at least they don't complain when you forget to oil them, unlike your car. With Mundfish promising more freedom, moral dilemmas, and cinematic flair, Atomic Heart 2 aims to elevate its predecessor's cult reputation into blockbuster territory. Ballad of Antara is one of those games that instantly makes you go, okay, this could be the next big Souls-like obsession. Developed by Tipsworks Studio under Infold Games, it's a free-to-play fantasy action RPG dropping in 2025 on PS5, PC, and mobile. The setup is wild, the world's been wrecked by an ancient force that twisted the land's essences, and you're teaming up with emissaries, basically super-powered beings tied to those essences, while journeying alongside Dromos, a mysterious girl trying to reunite the shattered world. Combat is clearly inspired by Souls-like mechanics, so expect punishing fights, tactical dodges, and that sweet adrenaline rush when you finally take down a boss. But it's not just about grinding through battles. The devs are promising a rich narrative, cinematic flair, and a world that feels alive with lore and danger. Honestly, it looks like one of those games where you'll be yelling at your screen after every brutal fight, then immediately diving back in because the vibe, the mystery, and the sheer spectacle are too good to walk away from.
Dust of forgotten miracles! Rain fire from above!
This desolate land needs a sprinkle of madness.
Remember, no matter what happens, we did not betray this world.
Black Myth: Zhongkui is Game Science's next mythological action RPG, following the success of Black Myth: Wukong, and it thrusts players into the legendary tale of Zhongkui, the demon-quelling figure from Chinese folklore. Built on Unreal Engine 5, the game promises cinematic combat, sprawling environments, and a darker tone that explores morality, myth, and the balance between humanity and the supernatural. Players will wield Zhongkui's immense strength and mystical powers to battle hordes of demons across richly detailed landscapes inspired by ancient Chinese culture. The narrative is designed to be both epic and personal, charting Zhong Kui's rise as a protector against chaos while immersing players in a world of haunting beauty and brutal encounters. And yes, fighting demons is tough, but at least Zhong Kui doesn't have to worry about patch notes ruining his sword swing. With game science expanding the Black Myth universe to multiple legendary figures, Zhong Kui's chapter is set to be a cornerstone of the franchise's ambitious future. Blackwood is one of those games that instantly makes you go, alright, this is basically John Wick if he owned a DVD store. Set in 2012 New York, it's a cinematic third-person action thriller from Atredo M7 Productions, dropping in Q3 2026 on PC. You play as Anton Blackwood, a guy living a double life. By day, he's running a quiet little DVD shop in Brooklyn, but by night, he's a ruthless assassin caught up in a brutal underworld. The gameplay mixes grounded melee combat, slick gunplay, and savage takedowns, all wrapped in a photorealistic Unreal Engine 5 package that screams high production value. What's cool is the duality. You're balancing Anton's softer side, seen by the people close to him, with the violent reality he can't escape. Honestly, it looks like one of those games where you'll be muttering, "Bro, this fight choreography is insane," while still glued to the screen because the story's cinematic flair keeps pulling you deeper.
Today.
Put some ice on it. Good night, Anton.
The gap in left center. That's rolling all the way to the wall. He's around first. Digging.
Blood Message is NetEase's upcoming single-player action-adventure set in the late Tang Dynasty, developed by 24 Entertainment using Unreal Engine 5, where players embody a nameless messenger and his son on a perilous eastward journey during the Shaju Uprising of 848 AD. The game blends cinematic storytelling with tense survival mechanics as you traverse deserts, hostile territories, and relentless enemy sieges to deliver a crucial message to Chang'an. Its narrative focuses on loyalty, sacrifice, and the unsung heroes of history, offering a linear yet emotionally charged odyssey. Combat is third-person, emphasizing skillful swordplay and tactical encounters, while the atmosphere captures the grandeur and decay of Tang-era China. And yes, carrying a message across 3,000 li is exhausting, but at least you don't have to deal with spam texts along the way. With no release date yet, Blood Message is poised to be a hauntingly beautiful tale of duty and resilience. Breathage 2 is basically shaping up to be the chaotic space survival sequel none of us knew we needed, but all of us secretly wanted. So here's the deal. You're sent on a reckless mission into deep space, and instead of just floating around fixing oxygen leaks like in the first game, now you're managing a whole crew, building bases, crafting gear, and yes, still babysitting that ridiculous chicken mascot while trying to take down an evil space corporation. The devs at Red Ruin Softworks are leaning hard into the mix of comedy and survival, so expect plenty of absurd humor alongside genuinely tense exploration and resource management. It's got that open-world sandbox vibe where every corner of space feels like it's hiding something dangerous or hilarious, and the visuals are cranked up with Unreal Engine polish to make the void look stunningly alive. Launch is planned for the first quarter of 2026 on PC, with a demo already out on Steam, and honestly, it looks like one of those games where you'll be laughing at the absurdity 1 second and panicking about oxygen the next. Chronicles. Medieval is one of those games that makes you go, alright, this is basically the medieval sandbox we've all been waiting for. Developed by Raw Power Games and heading into early access on Steam in 2026, it throws you into a brutal living European world where you start from nothing and claw your way up to power. You're not just swinging swords, you're building castles, leading armies, trading, dabbling in diplomacy, and carving out your legacy in a realm that reacts to every choice you make. The combat promises large-scale battles and gritty melee clashes, while the sandbox lets you decide whether you're a ruthless warlord, a savvy merchant, or a scheming noble. It's moddable, co-op friendly, and dripping with that write-your-own-story vibe, so no two players' journeys will look the same. Honestly, it feels like one of those games where you'll be yelling, "Bro, I just conquered half the map with nothing but grit," while still plotting your next move because the world keeps pushing back in ways you didn't expect.
Only one ending. I shall find no peace. On this road, there is only death. Go write your own.
Crimson Desert is Pearl Abyss's sweeping open-world action-adventure set to release on March 19th, 2026 for PC, PlayStation 5, Xbox Series X and S, and macOS. The game unfolds in the war-torn continent of Pywell, where players step into the boots of Cliff, a mercenary leader of the fallen Greymanes determined to reunite his scattered comrades and reclaim their legacy Crimson Desert. Built on the Black Space engine, it promises cinematic storytelling, visceral combat, and a living world teeming with rival factions, mythical beasts, and shifting alliances. Unlike its MMO cousin Black Desert Online, Crimson Desert is a standalone single-player epic, blending medieval fantasy with gritty survival. The narrative emphasizes loyalty, betrayal, and destiny, while gameplay showcases dynamic battles, exploration, and even the ability to ride bears, dragons, and mechs PC gamer. And yes, when you're charging into battle on a bear, you'll finally understand why knights never skipped leg day. With its ambitious scope, Crimson Desert aims to redefine fantasy RPGs by merging spectacle with emotional depth.
Remember who you are, and let it guide your path. For at the end of it,
Gothic 1 Remake is basically the return of a cult classic RPG that defined the early 2000s, rebuilt from the ground up in Unreal Engine 5 by Alchemia Interactive and published by THQ Nordic. Launching in early 2026 on PC, PS5, and Xbox Series X and S, it throws you back into the Valley of Mines, a brutal prison colony where survival means picking sides, earning respect, and clawing your way up from nothing. The devs are promising a faithful recreation of the original's gritty vibe, but with modern combat, cinematic storytelling, and a dynamic open world that reacts to your choices. You'll still be that nameless hero, but now every fight, every faction alliance, and every decision looks and feels way more visceral thanks to next-gen visuals and updated mechanics. Honestly, it's shaping up to be one of those games where you'll be muttering, "Bro, I can't believe they actually pulled this off," while grinning ear to ear, because Gothic's legendary atmosphere is finally getting the remake treatment fans have been begging for.
You might dismiss their culture as primitive, but it would be prudent to study them carefully. Maybe the key to all of this lies buried deep under their sanctuaries. I cannot unravel these mysteries all alone. I need allies. Allies who look out for more than their own survival. Allies who accomplish things you might have considered impossible. Allies I will meet soon enough.
GTA 6 is Rockstar Games' long-awaited sequel, set to release on November 19th, 2026, and it transports players to the fictional state of Leonida, inspired by Florida, with Vice City as its neon-soaked centerpiece. The story follows criminal duo Jason Duval and Lucia Caminos, weaving a tale of romance, betrayal, and survival in a sprawling open world that promises unprecedented detail, dynamic weather, and evolving ecosystems. Built on the Rage engine, the game expands Rockstar's cinematic storytelling with deeper AI systems, more interactive environments, and a narrative that balances chaos with intimacy. Players can expect heists, car chases, and a living city that reacts to their choices, making every decision ripple across Leonida's underworld. And yes, crime may pay in Vice City, but don't expect your in-game rent to be any cheaper than Miami's. With years of anticipation and leaks behind it, GTA 6 is shaping up to be the most ambitious entry in the franchise, redefining open-world immersion for a new generation.
Say my city, baby! My city, baby!
Marvel's Wolverine is Insomniac Games' highly anticipated leap into the darker side of Marvel's universe, arriving fall 2026 as a PlayStation 5 exclusive. Built by the same team behind Marvel's Spider-Man, the game tells a self-contained story where Logan confronts the ghosts of his past while carving through enemies with his iconic adamantium claws. The narrative is designed to be mature, gritty, and emotionally charged, with writers from Spec Ops: The Line ensuring depth and moral complexity. Gameplay showcases visceral melee combat, environmental destruction, and cinematic sequences that highlight Wolverine's feral nature. Unlike Spider-Man's acrobatics, Wolverine's world is slower, bloodier, and more personal, emphasizing raw brutality and survival. And yes, Logan's claws are sharp enough to slice through steel, but don't worry, he still struggles to open childproof medicine bottles. With Insomniac's pedigree and Sony's backing, Marvel's Wolverine is shaping up to be one of the most ambitious superhero games ever, expanding the studio's Marvel universe while giving fans the definitive Wolverine experience.
I'm Wolverine.
The Expanse: Osiris Reborn is Owlcat Games' ambitious dive into the beloved sci-fi universe, a third-person action RPG where players step into the boots of a mercenary commander leading the Pinkwater security squad aboard a space frigate. Set in the 24th century, humanity has conquered the solar system, but peace is a fragile illusion as Earth, Mars, and the Belt teeter on the brink of collapse. What begins as a reluctant stopover on the asteroid Eros spirals into a conspiracy spanning the system, forcing you to gather a crew, navigate shifting alliances, and survive battles that test both loyalty and skill. Exploration, combat, and dialogue choices intertwine to shape your path through a web of lies and power struggles. And yes, space combat is brutal, but at least you don't have to worry about parallel parking a frigate in zero gravity. With cinematic storytelling, branching decisions, and the weight of the Expanse's lore, Osiris Reborn is poised to deliver a gripping blend of narrative and action that lets players leave their mark on the stars.
My suggestion? Eros.
The Witcher 4 is CD Projekt Red's bold continuation of its dark fantasy universe, officially revealed at the Game Awards 2024 as the start of a brand new trilogy. This time, players step into the role of Ciri, the child of the Elder Blood, who takes center stage as the saga shifts to the northern kingdom of Kovir, a land never before explored in the series. Powered by Unreal Engine 5, the game promises a vast, immersive open world with dynamic weather, intricate ecosystems, and branching narratives that expand on the moral complexity the franchise is known for. CD Projekt Red has emphasized cinematic storytelling, player choice, and technical innovation, aiming to surpass even The Witcher 3 in scope and detail. And yes, Ciri may be destined to fight monsters and shape the fate of kingdoms, but she still can't escape the horror of NPCs asking her to fetch herbs. With its mix of mythic storytelling, cutting-edge technology, and a fresh protagonist, The Witcher 4 is shaping up to be one of the most anticipated RPGs of the decade.
You can't change anything!
Tides of Annihilation is Eclipse Glow Games' sweeping Arthurian-inspired action-adventure scheduled for release in 2026, and it casts players as Gwendolyn, the lone survivor of a catastrophic otherworldly invasion that fractured London. Her journey spans the ruins of modern-day London and the mystical realm of Avalon, where she must seek the Holy Grail to save her sister, restore the world, and exact vengeance on demigods who rule with cruel dominion. Powered by Unreal Engine 5, the game promises cinematic storytelling, fluid combat, and richly detailed environments that merge myth and modernity. The narrative blends personal tragedy with epic legend, weaving puzzles, exploration, and battles against towering foes into a tale of survival and destiny. And yes, fighting demigods sounds terrifying, but at least you don't have to explain to King Arthur why you accidentally dropped Excalibur in the Thames. With its fusion of mythic grandeur, modern setting, and emotional stakes, Tides of Annihilation is shaping up to be one of 2026's most intriguing fantasy adventures.
My quarrel lies not with you, but I will take back everything that belongs to me.
Valor Mortis is One More Level's grim new Souls-like adventure arriving in 2026, and it thrusts players into an alternate 19th century Eastern Europe, where Napoleon's war has torn reality apart and unleashed a plague that twists soldiers into undead horrors. You play as William, a resurrected British soldier bound to Napoleon's Grande Armée, forced to wield a cutlass and supernatural powers against both monstrous foes and the conspiracies behind his own resurrection. Built on the studio's pedigree from Ghost Runner, the game promises fast-paced first-person combat, brutal difficulty, and atmospheric storytelling across battlefields warped by history and nightmare. Elemental abilities like fire and lightning add flair to swordplay, while the narrative explores loyalty, corruption, and survival in a world where death is never final. And yes, being resurrected by Napoleon sounds epic, until you realize he probably won't let you take a sick day. With its blend of alternate history, dark fantasy, and punishing gameplay, Valor Mortis is shaping up to be one of 2026's most distinctive action RPGs. Wuchi the Wayfarer is Nexon Games and Lore Vault's ambitious new fantasy action-adventure announced in August 2025, and it transports players into a richly reimagined Joseon-era Korea where myth and history collide. Inspired by the tale of Jeon Wuchi, a classic Korean novel, the game casts players as the mischievous sorcerer Wuchi, whose journey spans sprawling cities, mystical temples, and cursed landscapes, all rendered in Unreal Engine 5 with cinematic flair. The developers promise a deeply emotional narrative that resonates globally, blending martial arts combat, spellcasting, and exploration with cultural authenticity. Its design philosophy mirrors the mythic grandeur of Black Myth, Wukong, but with a uniquely Korean identity. And yes, Wuchi may be a legendary trickster, but even he probably wishes his magic could fix the release date faster than the dev team. With Nexon's backing and Lore Vault's vision, Wuchi the Wayfarer is shaping up to be a culturally rich, visually stunning adventure that could redefine how folklore-inspired games captivate modern audiences.
참으로 정성이십니다.
Swords of Legends is one of those games that makes you go, this is Chinese mythology turned into a full-blown cinematic RPG. Developed by Oregon Shanghai and published by Wangyuan Shengtang, it's basically the long-awaited return of the Gujian series after 15 years, now rebuilt in Unreal Engine 5 for PC and consoles. You play as Si Pan, an underworld enforcer reborn to bring his wrath into the mortal realm, wielding mystical techniques, divine artifacts, and even captured souls that fight alongside you. The vibe is pure Wuxia meets Souls-like, with fast-paced combat, sweeping storylines, and visuals that look like they were ripped straight out of legendary Chinese literature. What's wild is that this isn't just another MMO spin-off, it's a single-player action RPG dripping with folklore, cultural depth, and emotional storytelling. Honestly, it looks like one of those games where you'll be muttering, bro, this boss fight feels like a myth come alive, while still grinning because the mix of combat, atmosphere, and narrative is just too good to pass up.
What?
The living cast their dead to flame, and sacrifice ignites the war banners!
Here we go again.
Mortal Shell 2 is coming in 2026, and honestly, it looks like the sequel Souls-like fans have been waiting for. Developed again by Cold Symmetry and published by PlayStack, it's taking everything brutal and atmospheric from the first game and cranking it up. This time you step into the role of the Harbinger, tasked with reclaiming the stolen ova of Undermeather from grotesque, nightmarish creatures, and the vibe is pure dark fantasy horror. The reveal trailer already showed off massive bosses, twisted environments, and a heavy metal soundtrack that perfectly matches the gory combat. Expect the same unforgiving gameplay loop, precise dodges, punishing parries, and that tense feeling of one wrong move and you're done, but layered with deeper lore and more varied shells to inhabit. Honestly, it looks like one of those games where you'll be muttering, "Bro, I hate this boss, but I love this game," while still diving back in because the mix of despair, challenge, and atmosphere is just too addictive to resist. Intergalactic: The Heretic Prophet is Naughty Dog's bold new sci-fi action-adventure IP, revealed at the Game Awards 2024, marking their first original story since The Last of Us. Set thousands of years in the future, the game follows bounty hunter Jordan A. Munn, played by Toddy Gabrielle, stranded on a remote planet while hunting down a crime syndicate, blending cinematic storytelling with Souls-like combat and expansive exploration. Directed by Neil Druckmann alongside Matthew Gallant and Kurt Marganow, with music by Trent Reznor and Atticus Ross, the project promises a darker, atmospheric tone than Naughty Dog's past work, aiming to rival their most iconic franchises. Personally, I think this is a daring but thrilling departure. Naughty Dog stepping into space feels like the studio finally breaking free from its comfort zone. I can't wait to see players who struggled with ladders in Uncharted now trying to climb alien cliffs, only to look less like hardened bounty hunters and more like tourists on a bad interstellar hike. Intergalactic: The Heretic Prophet, preparing to launch in 2027 exclusively on PlayStation 5, inviting players to chase destiny across the stars in Naughty Dog's most ambitious leap yet.
Thank you.
Listen, kid. I'll see you on the other side.
And that's all the upcoming open world games you need to keep on your radar. If I missed a game you're hyped for, drop it in the comments. I'm always down to add more to my never-ending backlog. If you enjoyed the video, hit like, subscribe for more game breakdowns, and I'll see you in the next one.